Hello and welcome to the Celina Radio Podcast. I am successful business juggernaut Ron Lyons, and I'm here with an extremely mediocre radio talent, Ben Rogers. Ben, you and Skin have been fired from every radio station in town, and you've got a little brewery up in Celina called Roller Town. It's not doing well. Like everything you guys have ever done, it seems to be quite the struggle. It's not that much of a surprise considering you're a lifetime C student in school. How do you explain yourself?
I have to tell you, Roller Town is my most successful failure yet. Okay. I have a new adventure I want to talk about today on your show. By the way, I love your crappy podcast. and the thing I want to do, you know what Tic Tacs are?
Oh yeah.
We're coming up with a new version of that. We're infusing it with some stuff, and we're going to revolutionize the whole micro candy market. So that's my next big failure. So
okay, good. I'm interested in that.
Actually, I am Ron Lyons, and this is the very, very famous and very successful Ben Rogers. Ben, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Ron, it's an absolute pleasure. I was honored by the invite, and look, I have a lot of respect for you and your love of our community and the support you show, and man, I'm attracted to that energy. I think it's a great thing, and it's good for all of us, so I commend you for what you're doing, and I'm happy to be here.
Well, thank you for that, and obviously there's a whole lot going on with Roller Town, and we want to get into some of that stuff, but we want to talk about a lot of things. You've got so much going on. You've got some great adventures. Life is really unfolding before you, and we're going to get into all that stuff. So, but before we do all of that stuff, let's just back up a little bit and let's talk about Ben Rogers himself. Okay, so everyone knows you from radio. Tell me about the radio station. What are you on? What do you do? What's your show like?
So my show is called the Ben and Skin Show.
Okay.
And I host that show with my best friend since 1982, Jeff Skin Wade.
Nice.
Which is really rare because a lot of times radio companies will get a host from New York and a host from LA, and let's pair these guys together and hope they have chemistry. We don't have to do that. We have natural idiot chemistry from being buddies since we were 12. And so, we grew up in Richardson, and we grew up rooting for the Cowboys, the Mavs, the Rangers, all those things. So
right.
Rooting for these local teams. And so we've been able to go on this amazing adventure where we goof off and cover the teams that we love. And we've been doing it now since around 2001. We started doing it part-time, and we went full-time in 2008. We've worked at, Fox Sports 1190. Okay, we started at K-Star 49, a TV show.
Okay.
Went to Fox Sports 1190. Then we did the Mavs postgame show on Sports Radio 1310, The Ticket. That grew into Vacation Fill-In and Saturday shows. We did that full-time until 2008. We went to Live 105.3. That station, a few months in, flipped to 105.3 The Fan. We left 105.3 The Fan. We went to 103.3 ESPN. We came back to 105.3 The Fan. And then in 2020, we went over to 97.1 The Eagle. That turned into 97.1 The Freak, which then turned back into 97.1 The Eagle. And we are still there. The Ben and Skin Show is on from weekdays 3 to 6. And it's myself and Jeff Skin Wade and Kevin Turner and Christina K. Ray. And we just have an absolute blast every day. We laugh it up. We goof off, talk about local stories. And, I feel incredibly blessed to have had the career that I've had. Doing what I love with people I love and getting to go to work and do that every day is amazing.
It is. It is amazing, and it's a great show. It's a very entertaining show. It's the moving around. That's not that uncommon in that market, is it? For that kind of thing to happen, there's format changes, there's ownership changes, there's all kinds of stuff like that. So, what is that? Is that something that is common, or is that something to those of us who don't know that world? Is that something that's kind of rare, and you're just a guy that's been lucky enough to bounce around a lot?
Turnover and change is not rare. Working at all these different places is somewhat rare. Skin and I have never been fired, ever. In that entire run of going to all those different places, we try to read the landscape and look for the best opportunity for us. And for this is a dream. It's a dream job. It's a hard job to get and a hard job to keep. And it's so much fun while you're doing it. But just holding on to it is so incredibly stressful. I mean, we're swimming with sharks. This is corporate radio. And so we've undergone a lot of changes, a lot of consultants, a lot of bosses, a lot of directives. And I'm very proud that we have survived. But the little joke I had for you when you were me and I was you at the beginning was you guys have been fired from every station. Again, nobody knows that we've never been fired. They assume that for you to go to all these places, you must keep getting fired. But
you must have been fired.
If you're getting fired that much, why would anyone ever hire you ever again?
Absolutely. And so just fill me in just a little bit. So I grew up with 97.1 as the Eagle, back when Kid Craddock was on and all that stuff, high school days and all that. And then it changed and now back to the Eagle. What's the inside scoop on that?
Well, consumer habits are changing and evolving so unbelievably rapidly when it comes to how you take in your entertainment, pop culture, what have you. Like I have 3 kids, and my kids, I'd get a newspaper delivered to my house. I'd watch direct TV, and my kids don't consume media that way. They would consume YouTube or TikTok or what have you. They're staring at their device, and so basically all content of any kind is just an advertising vehicle. You're either going to pay for a subscription, so it's advertiser free, or it's going to have advertising in it. And so it's all a game for advertisers to try to reach the most people that they possibly can. Well, that's a moving target right now because some people like podcasts, there's no barriers to entry to start a podcast now, right? So you can start a podcast, you're putting stuff out there in the universe, good stuff. And so media companies are having to evolve rapidly to keep up with consumers and their, consumption habits evolving. And so, for these giant radio companies, they're trying to figure out what the right answer is. Is it playing this type of music? Is it having talk? Is it having a hybrid or a combination of both? Is it owning the podcast space? Is it live streaming? Is it YouTube? And so everybody's trying to figure that out. And so we've just been fortunate enough to surf along in that journey, and we do really well with our advertisers. One of the cores of what we do is we're good partners. And so when we have advertisers, we don't just read their copy points and go, okay, now that's out of the way. Let us paint now. We're like, no, let's ingrain those advertisers into the content, because without them, we can't even do what we love. And so the thing that's been great for us is our advertisers have gone with us from place to place to place. And we create those long-standing loyal partnerships. So I say all that to say, we've had to learn that, my dad gave me a great metaphor for this. You control what you can control, and you can't spend your time worrying about what you can't control. And when you work for a massive, national corporation, you don't always get to call the shots, right?
Right.
It's their sandbox. And so my dad told me, he said, life's like a dog sled team. If you're not the lead dog, the view never changes. And I thought that's a great life lesson. So we just have had to learn that, hey, it's not always perfect. It's not always exactly what we want it to be, but we're so fortunate to have this opportunity, and we're supporting our families goofing off and telling fart jokes and being idiots. So let's just continue to have fun and talk about the teams we've loved our whole lives. And we just feel really fortunate. So we don't harp on the things we can't control that aren't perfect. We focus on the things that are really magnificent that make it so special.
Nice. Where'd you grow up?
Richardson, Texas. And born and raised, my family's from Roswell, New Mexico initially. And they moved to Dallas. My dad was an accountant, later got into real estate. And I have 2 brothers who are amazing. My older brother, Tony, my younger brother, Jonathan. And, we have such a small family. Like we had an aunt and maybe 2 cousins along the way. And I thought, okay, Roswell, maybe my parents are aliens. Maybe we're in the witness protection plan. Like we have no family. This is such a small thing. And so since we didn't have a big family, our little nucleus, our little 5-person family is super tight knit. And that's what got us by in little old Richardson, Texas. And then we watched Richardson become pretty big.
So you're not aliens though.
I hope not.
Maybe that explains a few things.
Yeah, that could.
You never know.
Yes.
Yeah. So you grew up in Richardson. What high school?
Berkner High School.
Went to Berkner. And how long did it take from high school before you had your first radio job?
Okay, so graduated in 89 from high school. Graduated from college in 99. Not a doctor.
Yeah. I was on that plan.
Okay. And then first radio job was a part-time Mavericks post-game show, I believe in 2001 or 2002.
Very good. And who are some of the local icons, because you grew up in the DFW market, so you've listened to radio here for many years now. So I mentioned Kid Craddock. Who are some of the radio icons in this market, in your opinion? Yeah,
Kid Craddock, rest in peace, was just an absolute genius and an icon. And he approached me and Skin early on, and we had a cool little relationship with him. He kind of mentored us. I don't know. We didn't know why he was showing an interest in us. He never tried to hire us. He would just give us kind of advice on our contracts and how to deal with these corporations, and was just a sweet, honest, good dude. And grateful that he took that time to invest in us. And he actually this was one of the biggest compliments ever. He used one of our slogans that we created, which was "Grow the Show," which comes back to marketing and brand building and the things that I'm super passionate about. And he started using that, and we thought, man, that is so cool. What an honor. So Kid Craddock, I think Mike Reiner for what he did at Sports Radio 1310, The Ticket, of course, Norm Hitzkiss, who was also there, Randy Galloway. We got to work with Randy Galloway at ESPN for a while, and he is one of one. That guy is a unicorn, and here's why. So he's a writer. He's writing for the Dallas, was it the Star Telegram and the Dallas Morning News. He did both, or was it the Times Herald? But brilliant columnist, right? Like people that maybe don't dig in too deep, maybe don't understand the difference between a beat writer and a columnist. The columnist is the beat writer saying, this happened in the game. I do not have an opinion. The columnist is like, this happened in the game, and that guy's a bum. He's giving his opinion. And so Randy was this brilliant, mercurial columnist who could, bring out all these emotions in people just with the written word. And then he was also the star radio host, and he was doing the exact same thing on the radio. Well, he made it look easy. And so industry execs were like, hey, let's put all the writers on the radio. No, didn't work. They didn't. They weren't as quite as good when it came down to talking to the microphone.
Right.
And then some suits along the way were like, let's have all these idiots that talk into microphones. Let's have them write columns. Well, no, they're not as great with the grammar and maybe not fact checking. And it's easier to have loose opinions on the radio than it is to write something. And so Galloway is a one of one because he could do it all as well as anybody, and he just made it look so easy.
Well, it's awesome. And So you get into radio. Did you start out? So you did the post-game show for the Mavericks, and that's because you've told me that you love sports, and you played sports back in high school and stuff like that. So talk to me about that. Why didn't we take sports and become like a pro athlete?
Yeah, it's crazy. I when pro scouts look at all this girth that I have, how did they not see I can't jump, I'm not fast, not strong, really not a high sports IQ.
So other than lacking the physical acumen and stuff like that. No, seriously, you were into baseball, you played football, you did basketball, you did everything, and you do have the size for a lot of that stuff. You still like to play sports. So does that just make it so easy for you to do your shows because you have such a passion for it?
It does. And I have more passion for sports than I have ability. And, I played as long as I could play till I probably got too distracted by, chasing girls, which I had no game at all. And talk about that for a while.
There's a pro sport.
Right. But I love sports, passionate about our sports teams. Covering sports on the radio has been amazing, to be inside locker rooms and develop relationships with athletes and learn a little bit about how that works. And the thing I love the most about sports is if you grow up in that environment where you're on teams, then you never focus about the things that make us different. You focus on the things that make us the same. If you are a collective team chasing a goal, you're not sitting there going, Well, this guy is a different color than me. This person's from a different part of the world than me. This person likes this. And you're not thinking about your differences. You're united as one, chasing a goal. And that is ingrained in me. I love that. I love learning about people that are different than me. I love chasing a common goal together. I like energy that brings us together as opposed to energy that separates us, which is why I'm not a political person. I want things that unite us and bring us together and create a community. The bigger, the better.
Right on. And so let's talk about high school just a little bit. So, everything in high school, you kind of fit into a category, and you played sports. So does that mean that did you fit in that jock category, or were you more of like, what was your group in high school?
So I was a class clown. And
I can't even imagine that. That's impossible.
And I love how much we're talking about how much sports I played in high school. I'd like to do that, but let's build that up into something. But here's the peak of my sports experience as an athlete. Okay. So I was an offensive lineman, but nobody likes to be an offensive lineman. When you're playing, football out in the front yard and you're like, I'm Drew Pearson, I'm Roger Staubach. Nobody's like, I'm the left tackle. Like everyone is a skill position. And so when you're playing football, it's a thankless job. And I was just big and in the way. And so I'm like, I don't like that. I like that sport. I like basketball. And, I kept trying out for the basketball team, kept getting cut, made the team 1 year in 9th grade. And it was the best experience of my life. I don't know if I ever even got in a game, but I loved it so much. Tried out for basketball. So for us in Richardson, it was 7th, 8th, and 9th were middle school together. High school was 10th, 11th, and 12th. And so I go out for basketball in 10th grade and they're like, no. I'm like, okay, well, they're like, go play football, you big idiot. And I'm like, no, I don't want to play football. It wasn't necessarily hard. It was hard. Practices are hard and whatnot, but it came easier to me, so I didn't want it.
Right.
I'm like, I want baseball. And so baseball was one of my biggest passions. So I went out for baseball and I made the team and I started doing pretty well. And I had one opportunity. This is JV baseball. One day, the coach sent me and a guy named John Murphy. The way Berkner was set up then, you had to cross the street to get to where the varsity plays, closer to the school. JV was over on kind of a crappier field further away. And I had been hitting the ball really well. And so my coach was like, hey, Murphy, Rogers, get over there. You guys can go practice with varsity. And I was like, oh my gosh, I made it. It's incredible. I strutted over there so proudly. I was like, I didn't even have time to look at my friends on the JV. I'm like, sorry guys, I'm elite now. I'll never communicate with you ever again. And as I walked across the street to go over there, I started seeing the practice session that we were about to walk into, and it was very complex. There was a lot happening. And I hadn't grown up at the time. It was called BBI. I didn't grow up playing BBI baseball, select baseball or anything wasn't a thing. So I just played in like the little community league.
Right.
It was called Richardson Sports Incorporated, RSI is what I played. So as I got closer to the practice, I noticed there was like 2 coaches hitting fungos, ground balls to different sides of the infield. People are doing stuff in the outfield. And there was a pitcher on the mound doing things too. And so the third baseman was getting ground balls and throwing it to first. The first baseman was getting ground balls, throwing it to third. The middle infielders are turning double plays. And meanwhile, this pitcher and catcher are still doing stuff. And there's 2 coaches just like activity. And I'm like, I'm in line over there with the first baseman and it's the seniors. And they're like, who's this kid? I'm like, oh, dude, I've arrived. I'm never going back to JV. Let's go. I'm like, okay. So I see what's happening here. Super big ground balls. And my first ground ball, I come up with the ground ball and I'm kind of disoriented. And I'm like, oh, look at this play I'm about to make. And I no composure at all. And I just tried throw it as hard as I can to third base from first base. And the ball hit the pitcher in his head. His name is Chad Hansen. I think he later became a police chief in Addison.
Right.
But he's retired. We're friends on Facebook. He didn't hold it against me. And that ball hit him in his head and went like 30 feet up in the air. And the Coach Benedict, was like, just pointed. He just pointed at the JV field and he's just like, get back over there. And so I had one play to make. So I was back. The walk of shame, Murphy got to stay. I had the walk of shame. And the coach is Coach Young. And he goes, you're already back? What happened?
You're a waterfall.